Good morning and welcome to this message as we wrap up this series looking at Psalm 101, David's oath of office as he began his reign as the King of Israel. Over the last few weeks we've been looking at different verses through this psalm where David makes statements, values if you will, where he makes commitments as to how he will conduct himself as the king. And we've been looking at these as statements to help us in 2021, New Year's resolutions, if you will. And this week we're going to look at the last one, which is being resolute in truth. David, as king, wanted to be a king who would establish truth and rule with truth. He says in Psalm 101 and verse 7, "No one who practices deceit will dwell in my house. No one who speaks falsely will stand in my presence." You know, David stood for truth. David valued truth and he prioritized truth in his kingdom. He recognized that lies will cause the house to fall down, but truth would establish his kingdom. David was committed to truth. He saw truth as being a building block for his kingdom, a foundation for his reign. And I think that's true for us in our lives too, that truth is a building block for our lives. It helps us to build secure and stable lives if we build our lives on truth. One game that I enjoy playing, there's quite a few board games that I play with my family, and I have done over the years. And one game that has been a real hit in our family of recent times is this game called Absolute Balderdash. Now you may know this game yourself. You may have played it, but if you don't know it, the aim of the game is to be a good liar. The aim of the game is to be a great deceiver. In the game, you have each player comes up with a statement that is a lie, that is a trick, and there is one truth in the collection of statements, and there is a collection of lies and untruths, if you will. For example, you're given a word and you have to bring a definition for that word. And out of all of the options, there is one true definition for that word. And there is a whole collection of made up definitions for that word. And the aim of the game is to be a good deceiver and to trick people into thinking that your lie is the truth and to identify what the true word is. And whoever gets to the end of the game, end of the board, is the winner. The whole basis of the game is to be a good deceiver and to be a good liar. It's a great fun game, and it's caused us many happy memories with our families over the years. But it's called Absolute Balderdash. And you know, in society today, there's a lot of balderdash. There's a lot of statements being thrown around that are dressed up as the truth, that look like the truth, but in fact, they're lies. You know, the aim of Absolute Balderdash is you're on a quest to identify what is true, to pick out what is true, and to rely on that, to choose the truth. There is a quest for the truth. And in society today, there is a quest for the truth, isn't there? Lots of TV detective series and investigative journalism programs are on a quest to identify the truth. There's a thirst for the truth in society today. In the midst of the pandemic that we're living in, people are hungry to know, how did this start? Who's responsible? Where did this all begin? There is a quest and a thirst for the truth. And I've watched programs recently investigating the origins of the coronavirus pandemic. There is a hunger and a thirst for the truth. In society today, there are lots of views about the truth. Some think the truth is relative, and one of the questions about truth is it absolute? Is there such a thing as absolute truth? Is there such a thing as absolute truth? The well-known pop band Manic Street Preachers, they had an album once called "This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours," suggesting that the truth was different depending on your perspective. Thinking like that is prevalent in society today. Truth is paraded around as perhaps a concept the idea of relative truth is talked about and promoted. But those thought processes and those worldviews are contrary to what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches us that there is such a thing as absolute truth. Jesus came to planet Earth on a mission sent from his Father to redeem mankind and to bring truth to the world. It says that Jesus describes Jesus in John chapter 1 as the light of the world, and it also describes him as being a man full of grace and truth. He was full of truth. Jesus made some bold statements about the truth. Jesus declared that he was the way, the truth, and the life. The truth. Jesus didn't say, I am a truth. I am one option. I am one option among many. Jesus said, I am the truth. He made a distinction. He set himself out from all of the other worldviews. He answers the question, how do we get to heaven, in this statement? And he says, it's through me. I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. It's a bold statement to make. Jesus came and he taught. He was a rabbi amongst the Jewish people, and he taught his followers principles and truths of his kingdom. And to many people recorded in the Gospels, we see that Jesus began his teaching with these words, I tell you the truth. It shows to me how dependable and how trustworthy Jesus is. He was full of grace and truth. He came and declared that he was the truth. And in his teachings, he says, I tell you the truth. In a world where sometimes it seems like everyone is playing absolute balderdash and the truth is difficult to pick out and the truth is difficult to discern, it helps me to look at Jesus and his teachings and see there that we can see absolute truth and we can identify and know the truth. Jesus said, didn't he, that you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. To understand and know absolute truth, first of all, we look to Jesus. We look at his teachings. When we live those out day by day, when we put into practice his teaching and experience the benefit and the blessing that comes from it, then we can acknowledge and know for ourselves that his teaching is true, that his ways, the ways of his kingdom, make sense. They bring fulfillment and blessing to life. Truth is an important attribute to have for ruling kings like David and for the King of Kings and his established kingdom. David wanted to build and establish his kingdom on truth, and for truth, day by day, it was an important attribute for David to have, and it's an important attribute for us to have in our lives too. To live with truth. As I said at the start, houses rise and fall on being built on truth. If they're built on lies, everything falls apart. Relationships are built and established and are maintained on the basis of truth. And in our lives and relationships, let's be people who build our lives on truth. I remember looking again at David and his life. David, one of the most famous story perhaps about David was when he was a young fighting man and he came to the battle lines. Israel was at war with the Philistines and he brought his packed lunches for his brothers, and he saw the giant Goliath intimidating the troops. He saw the stalemate and the lack of progress being made on the battlefield, and David stepped in to go and fight Goliath. And eventually he persuaded the King Saul, that it was a good idea to send this young boy out against this experienced warrior. And Saul said to David, I'm going to put my armour on you. I'm going to put my coat of mail on you and my helmet on you, and at least give you some protection and at least equip you for the fight. But obviously the sizes didn't match up and David couldn't wear it He was slow, he was restricted, he was off balance. He was all of those things. And David stripped off all this armour and said, I'm going to fight with what I'm used to and what I'm skilled in. You know, it's important for warriors and soldiers to have armour that fits, to have the right tools for the job. And truth is like that in our lives. It's important for us to wear armour that fits in the fight for truth, in the fight that we find ourselves in as followers of Jesus, the spiritual battles that we wage. In Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 14, the belt of truth is identified by Paul as an important part of the armour of God, that famous passage about the armour of God. And we need to be equipped properly. David was ill-equipped in the armour on that battlefield, but he recognised the importance of having armour that fitted well. And we as soldiers in the battles that we face today, standing for God, following Jesus, day by day choices, it's important that we put on the belt of truth in our lives. It's important, like David, that we are resolute in truth, that we value and prioritise truth in our lives. You see, the belt of truth is a vital, important component for the Roman soldier. It was so important to Paul that it was the first thing that he identified. He prioritised the belt of truth. It was the first item that he mentioned when he was looking at those soldiers in prison. Paul says this, starting in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. He says, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armour of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armour of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. Stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. You know, the belts that we wear today, they perform one function. They're designed to make sure our trousers fit. The belts that we wear perform that sole function. But the belt for the Roman soldier performed many more functions than that. I want to give you just three ideas, three examples of why wearing a belt of truth is important. Firstly, the belt of truth supports us. It does perform that function. You know, the Roman soldier would wear a tunic under their armour, and the belt of truth, or wearing the belt on as part of his armour, it would play a supporting role where it would enable his garments under his armour not to become restrictive to him. They would fit right. They would help him move. They would help him march. They would give him manoeuvrability on the battlefield. They would support him and help him with every step that he took. And that's what truth does in our lives. Truth supports us. Truth guides us and helps us to live freely, helps us to move, helps us to step out on the battlefield. It helps us step by, day by day. The belt of truth supports us. The second thing that the belt of truth does is that it protects us. For the Roman soldier, the belt not only went around the waist and around the back, but also had some armour, some protective elements that hung down in front of him to protect him where it mattered. And the belt of truth protects us. Just for the Roman soldier, his belt protected him and was a part of his armoury. Truth protects us. Truth protects us. If we speak the truth, you know, when the challenges come, in the difficult moments, the truth always comes out. The truth always comes out. Speaking truth protects us. We don't have to go to bed at night wondering and worrying about whether we've said or done the right thing, we can rest our heads on our pillows because we have spoken the truth and we have lived in truth. We can go to bed with a clear head and a heart at peace because we have spoken and acted in truth. Truth does protect us. And the third thing that truth does is it arms us. You see, the Roman soldier would wear a belt around them, and the belt would not only protect and support, but it would also provide a harness for the sword to be fitted and to be close by. The sword represents God's word, the sword of the Spirit it talks about in Ephesians 6. And truth and God's word go hand in hand. The belt of truth makes the weapon readily available for the Roman soldier. And for us, the belt of truth, got the truth of God's word right by our side, readily available, is so important to help us in every situation. You know, Jesus, when he was tempted out in the desert, he overcame the temptations of the devil because he quoted truth. He fought with truth. He fought with the sword, the truth of the word. He said, "It is written." When the enemy came and tempted him, when the enemy came and tried to sow doubt into his life, he kept coming back to the truth of God's word. You know, so it's important to wear truth in our lives today. It's important for you as a follower of Jesus to wear truth around you, to have God's word, the truth of God's word, readily available for you, to help you fight and win in the battles that you're facing with God's help. See, truth will help you in your relationships. It will establish firm, secure relationships. It will bring great blessing to your life. So let's be a people who wear truth today. Let's be a people who put on the belt of truth along with the rest of the armour of God and know and experience the support and the protection and the armoury that the belt of truth brings. David was resolute in truth in his kingdom. And let us be resolute in truth in 2021. In a world where there is absolute balderdash around, the truth can be hard to perceive. Let us be a people who rise up and live out truth every day. Thanks for listening to this series. I hope it's blessed you. I hope it's equipped you. I hope it's helped you. I hope it's challenged you. Over the last 7 weeks, we've looked at Psalm 101 and we've looked at David and his resolutions to do with praise, integrity, purity, humility, avoiding gossip, being faithful and living in truth. And I hope and pray that as you live out these resolutions in 2021, may you know and experience God's great blessing in your life as a result. And may he use you to do great things, to reach out in his love into the world in 2021. God bless you. Thanks for listening. See you again soon.